the White Walkers. Welcome to my next video and our thoughts on the White Walkers and the ending to Season 4, Episode 4, and what we think they're up to. A short note that I might occasionally refer to them as the Others. That's what they're called in the books, so from now on just know that anytime you hear the Others, it equals White Walkers. So on to the theory, and again there's no real spoilers here assuming you're caught up, it's just all speculation. So at the end of Episode 4 we basically learned what the White Walkers are, that they create themselves out of human children, and it appears to be how they propagate, so, it wouldn't make sense for them to do this if they could reproduce another way. Why wait on human children? It's a very odd thing. What's great about this reveal is that it shows us who the White Walkers are, but it doesn't show us where they came from, doesn't show us what their motives or purpose is in the story, and on that note we're going to dive into two theories, maybe a third, just to kind of go over what's going on with them and what their role in the story is. Number 1. Alright, the first theory is that the Children of the Forest created the White Walkers as a weapon to use against men. If you haven't seen our little children background video, then watch it here as it'll help to explain a number of things that go along with this theory. Now, we know the children and men fought a long war, they ended it, and then the walkers came and invaded a few thousand years later. We also know that the children were not involved in this war from the get-go, but they had to be brought into it by men after several years, at least according to the legend of the last hero, which is the story that Nan starts to tell Bran in Season 1.
Thousands of years ago, there came a night that lasted a generation. Kings froze to death in their castles, same as the shepherds in their huts. And women smothered their babies rather than see them starve, and wept, and felt the tears freeze on their cheeks. So is this the sort of story that you like? In that darkness, the White Walkers came for the first time. They swept through cities and kingdoms, riding their dead horses, hunting with their packs of pale spiders, big as hounds.
While we don't know too many details about their first invasion, we know the White Walkers have excellent timing this time around. The Seven Kingdoms have just had a dynasty change, the Greyjoy Rebellion wasn't too long ago, and the Walkers are seen for the first time in the show just as the news that the king is headed to the north to collect Ned Stark arrives. This leaves the north without its principal leadership. Ned basically leaves his children in charge, and it's almost as if the Walkers have eyes in the Red Keep. But that's a crazy theory and it belongs in an upcoming video we've got for you guys. At any rate, what better time to invade than now? And when they first invaded, were conditions similarly chaotic? Maybe they're waiting for the right time to strike? We don't know for sure. Anyway, the children certainly have both the means and motive to be behind the Walkers, as their magic is powerful enough to shatter the earth, and they were nearly wiped off the map by men, so who wouldn't want revenge after that? They seem to be able to manipulate water and ice, as their magic has already shown us through the legends. Also, according to legend, the children were nowhere to be found when the White Walkers first invaded, so it seems possible to me that the White Walkers were just another spell that backfired on the children, similar to their spell failing to sever the neck, and instead just flooding it and creating a swamp. We know that the White Walkers come from humans now thanks to the show, so the children seem to be the most likely candidate to have created the first walker out of a human. According to legend, the children can commune with the dead too, after all, so that's an interesting link. Now the children did help build the wall, and they supplied the Night's Watch with obsidian daggers every year, but if we don't know the details about the Long Night, is this all just according to legend, which means that it may or may not be true, or things might not have happened exactly as we've been told? For all we know, the wall was another barrier to the advance of men, and this would be the third time water has been used to try to cut off the continent if that is the case. We are told Bran the Builder built the wall, but he's also credited with building Storm's End several hundred miles to the south. This has always seemed strange to me, as he could be in so many places at once working on so many complicated projects that would have taken years to build. Although we don't know how this would work with magic as being involved, it's just struck me as odd and not true. So, if that is the case, and it's possible that he did not build Storm's End and that's a lie, then is it possible that he did not build the wall? Why is it a legend? Well, what better way for the Starks to legitimize rule over the North than a claim to a legendary structure? Regardless of the reason and credit for who built it, we know the children were involved with it. If the children did build the wall, and they were able to successfully hide from the Walkers, then why would they build the wall in the first place? Can they bring it down if they want to? A giant wall is a great way to stay out of sight and out of mind until you're ready to launch the next attack, or if you just want to be forgotten, for a time when men don't believe magic's around and they can't counter it. Also, we know the wall does have magic in it that keeps the Walkers from invading. However, how do the children know spells that can keep the Walkers from crossing, a supposedly whole different race of beings? but they couldn't come up with magic to keep mankind at bay when they were being slaughtered, since we're a completely different race from the children as well. Is that because the walkers and their minions are not independent of the children as we've been led to believe, but are in fact their creations or their children perhaps? As for the obsidian, it's said that the children only supplied 100 daggers every year. 100 daggers to the Night's Watch has always seemed really weak to me. At that time they had to defend hundreds of miles of wall, they had thousands of men under their command, and 100 daggers just seems really weak and half-hearted. It would have taken 10 years just to supply 1,000 men with a sidearm, so it always seemed half-hearted. After the long night, the children began to leave the world. However, when the children disappeared, they fled north of the wall, and this has always struck me as odd that they helped build a barrier against the White Walkers and then they fled to the wrong side of it. Even with men driving them out, for me, if I was a child, I would not want to live on the same side as the greatest threat ever encountered, and it's still a problem as we saw at the end of Season 4. So what do you think? This is the theory I like the best. We know both the humans and children can be greenseers and wargs, so this could already be the evidence that they gave us their magic or experimented on us, or maybe we even interbred. Could this explain why the walkers need Craster's sons or human children in general? Also, we know that the walkers are not the only ones that are interested in human children, especially male human children beyond the wall. The three-eyed raven has been interested in Bran Stark since Season 1. Why? Well, let's get into the next theory. Number 2. The White Walkers are servants of the Great Other. The next theory connects with Melisandre.
This war of 5 kings means nothing. The true war lies to the north, my king. Death marches on the wall. Only you can stop him.
So she believes that the true war lies to the north between light and dark, life and death, between ice and fire. So are the walkers humans who worship the Great Other? Or are they servants of the Great Other who come down and corrupt, possess, or warg into humans somehow? Are the children of the forest similarly servants of the Great Other? If you look at the legend of the Night's King, when he gave himself to a walker and declared her his queen, he also gave up his soul. Could this have some kind of connection with the ritual sex that produced the Shadow Demon between Melisandre and Stannis? Again, it's a potential link of humans and the others and the Great Other and what we've already seen with R'hllor in the show. If the others are demons who can warg into humans, maybe over time they empty the vessel? We know Bran is told not to spend too much time in Summer or he'll become the wolf, replacing Summer. Perhaps it's the same that a walker can possess a child, and over time the child just gets pushed to the wayside and the walker takes over completely. It might explain why they shatter or vaporize when they're stabbed by obsidian, almost like they're released from their mortal bonds or their mortal chains that tie them to this world. And if they are tied to the Great Other, then it would make a nice parallel with, modern beliefs such as things with holy water. It's almost like being stabbed with frozen fire or dragon glass and it's anathema to them. Even though the Red God religion seems to be somewhat new, we know that the legends from the Long Night also exist in the continent of Essos in the form of Azor Ahai, which has been touched on briefly in the show in the introduction in Season 2. That's when Melisandre burns the Seven and talks about the sword Lightbringer, but I'll get into that in another video. But at any rate, it's strange because the Long Night did not take place on Essos, so they have a legend of an event that didn't even take place on their continent. But it's a nice little historical link that shows that there are, a connection between the two continents. Another possible link with the White Walkers and children and Melisandre and her religion is power in the blood of kings. We know it's something that fuels powerful magic for Melisandre. They talk about it all the time.
So there's power in king's blood.
There is power in a king's blood.
And maybe it does the same for the children or the others as well. We know Craster refers to his place as Craster's Keep, and maybe that makes him a king in his own strange way. After all, the definition of king is pretty loose in Westeros. The Targaryens, for instance, were not kings of Valyria, their old kingdom. They were just a minor family. Same for Stannis. Does he have king's blood because of Robert taking the throne, or because the Baratheons used to rule the Stormlands before the Seven Kingdoms were formed? Maybe Craster has royal blood, as he is a bastard for the Night's Watch and a wildling woman, and we don't know who his father is. There were 7 kingdoms at one point, after all. That might explain why the walkers are wanting his children. And could Bran Stark be headed for a trap? Craster refers to the walkers as the real gods, just like Melisandre is always saying that R'hllor is the only real god in this universe. Again, we know there are other wargs north of the wall, so why is Bran Stark so special? Could it be his royal blood since the Starks have ruled the north for thousands of years? We know from the book and show that some wildlings practice cannibalism and human sacrifice. Maybe this is tied to the Great Other or the Old Gods, and it's some forgotten ritual. And maybe it's similar to burning is tied to R'hllor. Well, the symbol of the Old Gods is the weirwoods, and they're carved by the children, so what do you think? The last theory is that the children and the walkers are just two sides of the same coin. This one's pretty self-explanatory. The children and the walkers are related like cousins, or brother and sister. Just one side shows darkness and the other light. This theory ties in nicely to the first, as the walkers would have all the same powers as the children, the same motives, only it had a nice little twist in that you wouldn't know who to trust or not. However, for me, I don't really like this theory, as the ending to Season 4, Episode 4 pretty much dispels it, since we know the walkers are made out of humans. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have your own theories or think I missed something? Feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Leave me some questions. I'd love to do a Q&A. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and look for the next video. Have a good one.